Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Castle with the Hyperloop. So we got another deck in a day. Today we're gonna do Rex. So Rex is really interesting in that he gives you access to a lot of the older, busted like red cards that are dug in defensive positions. Now, the current format is looking like you got the Snoke decks. Which are just a myriad of different kind of functional ways that it plays out. Like there's the one that needs a ton of resources, and those ones tend to be off of like Sienna Towson or Basine Faust. Then you've got Thrawn, who needs even more resources, but he can generate a little bit better, and you have all the additional focus. Then you have like the low resource count ones, Afra. Which pretty much predicates himself on damage and like damage trades in the draw engine behind dealing indirect to yourself, and kind of just like them amassing value via triple zeros and BTs and what the hell is it? Like bubble shields and whatnot. There's a lot of value there to be had by them. Then pretty much different Towson decks, Tacos, Towson Dooku, and then you've got some different Yoda decks. I think Yoda Luke is actually just really strong. I think figuring out the deck's really hard, and the play style is kind of not befitting everybody. But anyways, so we're gonna go over Rex, and now the big thing about Rex here is that I think he's very useful in the current format, and what I mean by that is this. So we're looking at a lot of Weapon Factory Alpha decks, and what that means is that he's going to be able to steal them. And like the big thing about Rex is just like, alright, it's not about in my mind, his ability is not about taking the battlefield. Like, sure, that's realistically what he actually does, but I just mean like taking the battlefield isn't enough. You need to be gaining some benefit there. It's not just, oh, well, I want to take the battlefield so I can play, hasty exit or defensive positions or dug in. That's not enough for me to be running Rex and a fucking Clone Trooper. The Clone Trooper to me is just not good enough. It's very viable. It's valuable. Like, the reroll is really nice. It can, potentially save you a card, essentially like Rookie Pilot, but when I run Rookie Pilot, I have 5 dice. Unless we're 4 wide, but that's a different ball game, so let's throw it out the window. So the big thing here is that if a lot of people are playing on Weapon Factory Alpha, then we want the ability to steal theirs and gain a benefit from it. Now, if the opponent has Weapon Factory Alpha and uses it, and then we steal it, we get to use it as well. But if we had played on the battlefield with the die of Bendu's Lair, then if the opponent's first, so let's say your opponent claims because they're faster than you, and their first action is to roll the die in the pool, when you activate and take it, you can't use it. The power action's already been used up. So there's no benefit there. So realistically, we want battlefields that do something while you control them. So the ones that stand out entirely are Fort and Axis, Weapon Factory Alpha, and then whichever Imperial it is that says when you roll a support out, you can re-roll it. In general, if we look at those 3 cards, we've got, alright, built-in Guardian, we've got built-in resource gen when playing a vehicle, or the first vehicle, and then we've got a built-in reroll. And now, out of all those cards, the resource tends to be the one that's the most explosive, because the resource's value, to me, and in most situations, tends to be astronomical. It's worth, realistically, more than a damage. About 1.5, 1.75, because now when you have the battlefield and you play a T-47, you're like, all right, well, I got to pay for 1, so now you have that 1 left over for removal. That removal can go and just remove a die that's showing a 2 or a 3, or just kind of mess stuff up. Defensive positions take out multiples. So in that scenario, you're like, all right, well, if this is doing that much work off of 1 resource, the reroll and the Guardian is just not good enough. The Guardian's very good at messing up 2-character like aggro decks, in decks that have a bunch of modified sides. So if, let's say, Yoda as a Rookie Pilot is seeing a ton of play, then that could be really good. So now, with Fort and Axis, the big thing is that you don't want to activate your guys right away. And so, like, the dilemma is that vehicle decks are the better decks at playing slow. So would you really play Ford and Axis with the vehicle deck and then overpay for your dice? It's not that great. So the theory here is we're going to go Rex Clone Trooper. And now the question is, what do we do with this third character? We get one other color, so we can go pretty much mono red, yellow, or blue. What a lot of people have been playing has been, you know, like Anakin, or pretty much has actually just been hired gun. So there's a couple different ways to go about this. Let's say we went Anakin. We get access to easy picking, friends in low places. We're not going to run any other spot yellows, most likely. The reason here is because if Anakin only has 7 health and he gets targeted, like, he's dead. Now, the theoretical dilemma here is that, alright, so that 4th die no longer does damage, but there's some cool tricks here for Anakin. Now, if we go and... So, like, here's part of the problem with yellow. The lack of 0 drops. We can run hasty exit, but the thinking there is that, like, do we... Against aggro decks, I don't think we really care about losing the battlefield, but let's say we start on our battlefield, then we have to cast our vehicle first. What's not a problem, because hasty exit's that good. So, like, there's a couple different ways to go at this. Now, my thinking was that I could either go yellow with Anakin. I just dislike hired gun in comparison, and I think Anakin's focus means that we can do things like run Pod Racer to get indirect damage in round by round and harass the opponent. And I played that before, and it felt really good. With the blue, the thinking was I could do something like Jedi Instructor, probably not, but I could do Padawan. Yeah, I know, I run Padawan and everything. The thing about the Padawan here is that if I go Padawan, I get access to the blue stuff. So, since I'm going to be spending my money on vehicles, I get access to Caution and Hidden Motive, which are great 0 cost, you know, removal. Then if I'm playing things like DH-17, I'm probably not going to play a Rex's Blaster, but I can play Ezra's Lightsaber now, and Ezra's Lightsaber is actually probably the best quote-unquote blaster out of the bunch. I get access to, or I can play E11 for 1, Ezra's Lightsaber for 1, DH for 0. Those things can be worth a ton of value in that first round. Especially when you combine it with the vehicle setup. So I could just run like 6 weapons, and it would just be like, you know, 2 DHs, 2 Ezra's Lightsabers, and like 2 E11 blasters. And realistically, that's probably good enough. I'm trying to think math-wise what the ratio is to have that pull up in the initial 5-card hand, and then depending on the number of cards you mulligan. Because the thing is that we also still need to have vehicles. So if we're going vehicles, like how many vehicles do we run? I think we probably still need at least 7, probably 8. And so if we have that and we have 6 weapons, we are like, all right, well, we got 14, you know, dice going on here. And like, I think I'm perfectly fine with that. We're not going to run stuff like Force Speed or anything like that. So, like, let's just theorize this. If we go the 14 upgrades, right? Now, we probably want Force Illusion. That puts us to, so we were at 14. That puts us to 16. So we've got 14 cards left. Realistically, we probably want 12 pieces of removal, potentially more. But let's go with 12 for now. So we'll have like 2 slots left, right? Because we went 12 and 16. So we have 2 slots left. Now the thing here is that you could potentially just go Rally Aid.
There's a 5-minute slowdown in 1.5 miles. You are still on the best route.
I completely forgot to stop that. Oops. So we only have 2 card slots left. We realistically want kind of like additional ramp. So like probably Rally Aid goes in there. I don't think we have anything else we could really do. We could run like C-3PO. So I guess I could try. What was it? 2 illusions are actually counters removal. So we do have 2 more slots. So let's go back. We got 14 dice for doing damage. And we want 12 pieces of removal. So the 2 illusions make it 16. So we've got 10 for removal. We got 4 slots. So we can go C-3PO. 2 rally aids and what? Depending on what we want, like an R2-D2 or something. Each of those dice are like viable at doing different things. So C-3PO can, you know, net us more resources if we need them. Can turn into discard, shields, whatever's going that kind of looks like we need things to do. So I think that's perfectly fine there like that. So we'll treat it as a C-3PO and an R2-D2 and 2 rally aids. We only have 8 vehicles, but rally aid will get us value over time in general. We can just cast our zeros a little bit earlier. So we've got 10 slots left for removal. As always, I'm going to run 2 cautions, 2 hidden motives. The big thing for those is just that, like, when I'm casting those upgrades and vehicles, I can still cast removal. So for me, that's very important. All right, so we've got those 4. So we've got 6 left. Now, we already have 2 cautions, so like running 2 Duggins might be just pure overkill. So what I'll do is I'll go with 2 defensive positions and 1 Duggan. So we now have 3 slots left for the removal. So we're not expected to have.
Continue on I-93 north.
Sorry, I always stop when it talks. Because I don't know if you guys get that recorded. So we only have 3 slots left, and now the thing is that I don't think we're going to have a ton of resources here. So the overall expectation is that I probably want like a mixed bag of stuff. The defensive positions are just going to be phenomenal while Rex is alive, so I don't want to go away from those. Duggan is a 1 for 3, so once again, hard to go away from that. Then we had hidden motive and caution. So we were at, oh sorry, that's 7. Yeah, so we got 3 left. So my thinking is like, all right, we can do.
People left to continue on I-93 north.
We could potentially do some cute stuff. I think it's Rebel Guard is the 0-cost one that eats a die if it's if you have a range showing and it eats any non-damage side. So it costs 0. And there's a lot of things in the format that it'll eat, primarily like Snoke's focuses, but it doesn't eat any of the indirect. So it's just like, oh, what do we do there? But it's a good test trial at least. So we can do like an Overconfidence, a Rebel Guard, and there's 1 slot left. You could potentially run like what, a Flank, a Way of Light, Mislead. Mislead could be really good, just because most character dice right now don't show 3s, and with the whole Snoke thing, it just gives you free reign access on any of Snoke's dice or the dice that he would want to Snoke. So I'd probably, I think a Mislead there seems relatively reasonable. We're probably gonna have a bunch of red cards in the deck, and this mixes it up a bit so that Kylos have tougher calls. I'm trying to think, like, in general, we need the ability to eat Force Wave, and we only had, what, hidden motive and defensive positions, so, like, something specifically to target Force Wave could be huge there. So, like, Way of Light might make sense. It's going to be hard if we're trying to continue to seal the battlefield to maintain flank control, but flank has always been an option. We can run a pin down. Pin down's really good. I think with 8 vehicles we're probably fine. If we go any less than that, you can't run pin down. So I'd probably run 1, maybe 2 of those. Test it out and kind of just see how it goes. But the main theory is that Padawan's going to net us like a resource to start, and playing on Factory Alpha is also going to net us a resource to start. And the big thing is, if we don't start on our battlefield and the opponent's battlefield is not alpha, then we don't want to be like super hamstrung by like the lack of vehicles or it's not lack of vehicles, lack of resource gen there to pay for the vehicles. So that's why like Rally 8, C-3PO, R2-D2 could come in real handy there. So now let's go do the vehicles, because we only have 8 slots, and now we are 100% automatically running 2 T-47s and 2 Resistance Crate Speeders. From there, it's kind of like a mixed bag of what do we want to do. Side note, on the weapon setup, we could actually run Poe's Blaster if we really wanted, because that thing's phenomenal. I'm probably not into Rex's Blaster, because I don't really care about the speed of it. But Poe's Blaster is at least 222, and they're all direct. But anyways, so going back, the vehicle lineup is 2 T-47s, 2 Resistance Crate. I'm probably going 2 Y-Wings. The reason is because it's showing 3 damage sides, and for me it's really 2-4-4 on the damage sides, and then 2 Disrupt. The 2 Disrupt can be really strong at times when trying to bait out removal or just rolling it out, and 4 Indirect in theory is also very good. Like, yes, there's a bunch of decks that can make a bunch of resources, but if they're trading single resources for 1 damage, I think you tend to be okay with it. A lot of the decks that just make crap tons of resources really need those resources to kind of function, so they still have to decide which to go. You already have 3 of your starting dice that have a 2 indirect side, so it's not like you can, you know, realistically focus down well enough. The E11s also have 2 indirect sides. The Resistance Crate has a 2 indirect side. So like, it's kind of one of those things where like this makes, you know, realistic sense. And so we got 2 slots left, and now you're probably gonna have a huge lack of rerolls. You don't have a ton of focus. So I'd probably go like Arc here. I'm trying to think if there's another hero vehicle I'd run. I know Fang Fighter has the 2 and the 3, but the big thing is that you just kind of want consistency. So I think Arc here would be super solid. You could potentially run Pod Racer. I think if we were running the yellow Anakin version, then we would run Pod Racers as well as Hailfire Droid Tank, since you could change those, both of those sets change with Anakin. They work well together, and in theory you're trying to get Hailfire tanks for 3, you've got Anakin to get the resource, so like those things just go hand in hand. Smells in my car. Alright, so the reason why it smells is because I was taking trash from my store yesterday, and apparently there's a small hole at the bottom.
Use the left 2 lanes to take exit 27 toward US 1
but yeah,
North Tobin Bridge.
So that's the deck overall. Whether it's good or not, I have no idea. The theory is at least there. We have a bunch of value coming in the early rounds to get us the additional dice and potentially value over the course of the game. The other thing is that by playing with Red here and Rex, your opponent has to constantly play around defensive position. And defensive position is the biggest pain in the ass ever. Because depending on how like potentially greedy the person is, it ends up being, that thing can blow out 3+ dice. And I think at any point where you get 2 dice that are relatively solid, you should probably take it, because I can't think of most scenarios where you see 2 dice showing a 2 value or higher that don't just, you know, ruin you. 2 discards, you know, 2 focuses. I guess 2 focuses you might not do it until they have another die out. So like, let's say Snoke rolls out double focus. Then you're not really like, you don't really need to do anything right there. Like, the odds of him using a focus to flip into like a resource right there are just like not happening. So you can at least let them roll out to see what's going on. So I think the theory there is really sound. Caution's very good. We probably won't need our Padawan die. We've got a focus on 3 of our starting character dice.
In a quarter mile,
Padawan's
use the left
112.
lanes to take exit 27
The
toward
resource
US
side,
1,
so
North
like
Tobin Bridge.
Padawan should be relatively consistent. We didn't do any realistically spot blues, and getting a 0-cost DH on her, or a 1-cost E11 or Ezra's lightsaber seems
Use the
very,
left
very good.
lanes to take exit 27.
This GPS talking, I swear to God I closed it. So I think that's the end for today's deck in the deck. I think the deck, sure, it's not Snoke powerful or Yoda powerful, but Rex powerful does exist. It's just that it's always been tough for him because everyone's looking at the yellow configuration, and the yellow configuration for 0 cost is really stuck pretty much on hasty exit and potentially Lothcat for like their zeros. They can't kind of maneuver around from that, so like there's not much that they actually get to do there. But with the inclusion of blue, sure, we lost like we lost the easy pickings, we lost access to friends in low places. We didn't care about much of the rest of the yellow, maybe Maz's goggles, but all of that stuff costs resources. And in the new version, we have the zeros to help back us up, help us get through the game, and we don't kind of rely so much on taking the battlefield. Like, sure, we want it, but we're not reliant on it. With the redeploys, we get access to some cheap dice right away that have really, really viable sides, and I don't know, overall it just seems pretty solid to me. Not going to do like Force Wave in the deck because that's just kind of crazy talk. Like, in theory, sure, you could go weapon into Fatal Force Wave off of a Padawan, but it's just way too much of a dilemma trying to resolve that. Like in Yoda to Padawans, you could definitely do that. You can just, here's an upgrade and then override it into here's a weapon and override it into a Force Wave, and then use a Yoda special to trigger it. But we would have to find the special and find a resource, and that's just way too hard. But I do like the theory immensely of being able to Alpha into like a 2-drop vehicle, and then Padawan into like a 2-drop weapon, or Alpha into like a 3-drop and Padawan into like the free DH, or even just finding a resource there somewhere, and then Padawan getting the die also. Like, it should put us in a good position to start out the game pretty much guns blazing. But it's so, like, talking about the way that I built the decks, you'll notice that I'm constantly looking for a really solid start. I pretty much want to start the game ahead of where people are at, even if it's at a lack of health. I want to constantly be not necessarily in control, but I need massive value. Hidden motive can be really good value. Cautions are really good value. Oh, I got this bad character side. I'm not rerolling anymore. Resolve, resolve, resolve. Caution, get me 3 shields. And it's the ability to be kind of flexible and just like not always have something available, but the freedom from there is just great. The way I treat it is like, all right, caution is like a he doesn't like you for 3. In theory, sure, you have to give up, a character die on someone that's not being targeted, but in 3 wide, I'm normally looking at bare minimum 2 character dice to protect the 3rd character. And if the character's that's targeted is like one of the small guys with the single die, then I've got 3 dice minimum. And in those 5 wide decks, I get 4. But the big thing is that if I'm not starting with 5 dice, then I'm looking for some kind of huge amount of value to be had in my imaginary 5th die. So like with Talzin, you get the focus, and it's like, alright, well, auto-focusing in theory is like a 5th die. With Snoke, if you start with 4 dice, like when you Snoke ability, that's like a 5th die. When you start with Snoke and 5 dice, you're like, heh, 6th die. But you get hamstrung quite a bit when you do stuff like that. So like I'm always looking for that huge benefit. And like the thing is that in my mind, starting with a Padawan, sure, 7 health, questionable die, but if I can reliably use the ability in the first round, then I'm really starting the game with 3 resources. And starting the game with 3 resources can be just a huge boon to whatever's going on. But that's the theory, at least. E11 could potentially switch out into something else, but the initial thought here was that I wanted, I pretty much wanted all of the upgrades to be redeploys, but if DH17 is going to cost me 0, then I'm not going to complain. Because, like, if I only have 4 upgrades, the odds of starting with 1 are really low. With 6, then I'm in an okay spot. And E11 and Ezra's lightsaber, let's say I jam a DH round 1, just aren't bad in general. I can overwrite for the extra 1 resource if I really want, and I still got it for 1 resource, and I got to use the DH prior. DH's pay side can be a big pain in the ass, but we don't have any other pay sides in the deck, so it shouldn't be too bad, and I can kind of just ignore it if I really want to. In the scenario where, let's say, it switches into E11, essentially we gained a resource side and changed the 2 damage for a resource into 2 indirect by removing the resource cost, and gain redeploy. So it's pretty solid. Like, you'll take it, but turning into Ezra's lightsaber is probably just better because it's a better E11. We still maintain the 1 range side. We've gained a 2 melee, and we have the special to chuck 2 damage at somebody. It does mess up your activations because of the different symbols, but we're playing a 3-wide deck, and we have Rex, so do we really care that much? Probably not. But that's the end of the deck of the day. There's the reasoning behind it. Yeah, no, hope you like it. Let me know if any of you guys end up getting to play it, your thoughts, your counterpoints. Like, I really do like hearing back from you guys. Sometimes I don't see the messages and whatnot. If you throw it on the Hyperloops article, I pretty much always see those because I get an email for the thing. But like the YouTube, there's 3 of us with it on our phones, and I think if one of us opens it, then it doesn't pop up for the other 2. So sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. But you guys have a great one. Enjoy, and I hope you find something in this muddle of mess of deck lists that I'm building to take to a big event and crush with it. But outside of that, you guys have a good one. Hyperloops out. Deuces.